I haven't made any decision, nor will I make a decision until the end of the year. And my reason for that, I've never seen a place in the world that basically the next election starts the day after the last election.
All right, so the Democrats are scared that Joe Manchin is gonna challenge them. Welcome to the Christian Constitutional Conservative. Yes, I'm a Christian. I'm also constitutional, and I'm also a conservative. And if you don't like it, then you should stick around and find out why. So then I can convince you too to be one. Anyway, if you're a libertarian and you want to stay that way, you can too. I think that the most logical thing to be is a libertarian. But anyway, uh, let's get into this video. Now, did I just hear Joe Manchin talking about not being able to vote on the same day and him being against that? That is interesting. All right, so let's go ahead and watch this thing. I hope I don't make it into a half-hour video.
That was Senator Joe Manchin, a Democrat, refusing to rule out a third-party presidential run. After speaking to a bipartisan group in New Hampshire last night, the West Virginia senator told CNN's Caitlin Collins that Americans deserve another option in 2024. CNN's Jeff Zeleny reports.
Senator Joe Manchin openly flirting with a third-party presidential bid in New Hampshire.
We're here to make sure that the American people have an option. And the option is, can you move the political parties off their respective sides? They've gone too far right and too far left.
What?
Did I just see a book there that says common sense? Is somebody calling Thomas Paine and saying, hey, they stole your title, hey, sue them? I'm just kidding.
He calls a unity ticket many Democrats fear could be a spoiler by siphoning just enough votes from President Biden to help Donald Trump win back the White House.
I've never been in any race I've ever spoiled. I've been in races to win. And if I get in a race, I'm going to win.
At a town hall meeting at St. Ansem College in New Hampshire, Manchin, a West Virginia Democrat, and John Huntsman, a former Utah Republican governor, made their pitch for No Labels, a bipartisan group trying to move the nation beyond its partisan gridlock. Afterward, they sat down with CNN's Caitlin Collins.
You know, in my opinion, I don't think he's going to run. That's just my opinion. I don't think he is. I don't think he has the courage to run. You know? I don't think he's brave enough to run third party. I don't think so. But we'll see.
Right now, people are sick and tired of what they're seeing and upset about all they see is turmoil.
And if he does run, it might just show you that he is so sick of Biden and his administration that he's willing to run and spoil their chances of winning.
Havoc, and
I don't say that because I like him. I don't. He's a Democrat. And I've heard Republicans saying, oh, he should switch. Oh, he should. No. You stay Democrat. Okay, stay over there.
Do better than this, and the people expect us to do better. And this is a good movement.
They said Americans deserve a third choice if a rematch emerges next year between Biden and Trump.
Should the mainstream political system produce the same results in 24 as it did in 20, in which case 3/4 of the American voters have said no, not again. We want an option.
For more than a decade, the No Labels movement has promoted bipartisanship over extremes. The group, which registers as a nonprofit and declines to disclose its donors, plans to raise $70 million for a candidate in waiting. On Monday night, the group unveiled what it called a common sense policy book.
You know, you do have Cornel West. You could always donate that $70 million to him.
Aiming to find middle ground on controversial issues from abortion rights to guns to immigration.
All right, let's take a look at this. All right, let's do this. The First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution protects free speech. No American should face discrimination at school or at work because of their political views, like that one. Every legal voter should have the right and the ability to vote. Every legal vote should be counted, and every counted vote should be verified. Okay. I would go further and say that, as you know, that I would do away with voting machines. I would put that in there. No voting machines, no electronic, all paper. America must strike a balance between protecting women's rights to control their own reproductive health and our society's responsibility to protect human life. Okay, so for me, I'm all about just protecting human life. And let nature decide the rest of it. Every American deserves respect and freedom from discrimination. That Civil Rights Act. Hello. Okay. Whoa. Okay. And then we should give small businesses the resources they need to grow and get rid of the rules standing in their way. One thing I would do is, how they talk about raising the minimum wage? The problem with raising minimum wage is that it doesn't affect the corporations, because a lot of times the corporations are paying above the minimum wage. In Indiana, for example, the minimum wage is like $7.45 or $8, something like that. Well, guess what? McDonald's is paying $15. All right, but the mom and pop shops in a small town where I grew up in, they can't afford to pay $15 an hour. All right, and that's one problem with these raising minimum wage bills, is that it's raised the minimum. Everyone has to raise the minimum wage, including mom and pop shops. Well, mom and pop shops can't afford it, so what do? They either cut their staff or they close. That's an attack on small businesses, and people don't want to realize that. Anyway, members of the U.S. military should be given the dignity and opportunity to put their skills to good use when they leave the service. Okay. America is a nation of laws, so we must immediately regain control of our borders and stop releasing migrants to enter America illegally into the country. Wow. America is also a nation of immigrants, so we should create a path to citizenship for the dreamers and a plan to attract more legal immigrants, because more hardworking taxpayers means lower inflation and faster economic growth. Path to citizenship for dreamers. It's got to be a long path. It's got to include military service. And it's got to include, or any civic service, police, firefighter, something like that. And it has to include a long civics course. Maybe a year or 2 year civics course on U.S. history, U.S. politics. Not politics, but civics. The structure of government, what kind of government we have, so on and so forth. All right? That's what I would like to see. Public safety is the highest. If we're gonna give these dreamers citizenship, they need to go through that. That's what I'm trying to say. Public safety is the highest priority. We need to fix the criminal justice system so career criminals can keep committing crimes. Good. America needs more and better community policing to keep people safe. Good. Americans have a constitutional right to own guns, but society also has a responsibility to keep dangerous weapons away from dangerous people. No, how about instead the responsibility to keep weapons? Don't make it dangerous. Don't make it. How about just keep dangerous people from dangerous anything? Because anything can become a weapon. Let's just be real. All right.
It's a centrist agenda that sounds downright utopian in today's deeply divided Washington.
We're trying to make sure the parties understand you can't stay in the extreme left or extreme right.
No Labels has only secured ballot access in Arizona, Alaska, Oregon, Utah, and Colorado, aides say, with the goal of reaching 20 states by the end of the year. Another threat to Biden's re-election bid comes from Cornel West, the former Harvard scholar who is mounting a Green Party presidential bid.
This guy trying to look like Frederick Douglass. Oh, that's funny.
He, too, rejects the label of spoiler.
I wish they would spend as much time focusing on the plight of poor and working people as they do focusing on the spoiler. I don't even like that category, since so many of folk who vote third party don't vote at all.
While third-party efforts have shown little promise in modern American history, deep displeasure with Trump and Biden have shined a brighter light on the prospects this year. Mindful of an enthusiasm shortfall facing Biden, Democrats are increasingly sounding the alarm. Haunted by Ross Perot's independent bid in 1992, and Green Party runs from Ralph Nader in 2000 and Jill Stein in 2016. Manchin, who has yet to say if he intends to seek re-election to the Senate next year or run for higher office, dismissed such concerns.
I'm not here running for president tonight. I'm not. I'm here trying to basically save the nation.
There was significant interest in this idea, of course, here in New Hampshire, where the presidential primary process begins. Many voters say they are taking a look at this organization Manchin, for his part, said he will make a decision by the end of the year. No Labels will make a decision next year when they see if there's a Trump-Biden rematch in the offing. There is no doubt, though, hanging over all of this, even though Manchin says he's not a spoiler, some Democrats at the White House and
That's the name that these people give them, is spoiler. Oh my word. What other names are they going to come up with over there at CNN on the mainstream media? Oh my word. No, it's called a third party candidate.
supporters of Joe Biden are not so sure. Phil and Abby.
All right, thank you, Jeff Zeleny. Joining us now, our politics.
I will say this. The black lady, she's the prettiest thing I've seen so far on on the left mainstream media. Take that to the bank.
Reporter for Semaphore, Shelby Talcott, a national political reporter for Axios.
White liberal women never look pretty. Let's just leave that out there.
Alex Thompson. All right, Alex. I loved Dick Durbin, who's the number 2 senator in the Democratic caucus, referred to Joe Manchin as America's biggest political tease, which I think is a fair and accurate assessment to some degree. I am so highly skeptical of this and so highly skeptical of paying attention to it.
Again, what?
Am I wrong?
Again, what's with their big panels? So Fox News has the 5. All right, that's their one where they have normally 5. But normally, a lot of times, a lot of the videos that I've seen of Fox News, it's only just 2 people talking, or they'll have one guest on at a time. These places, they load their panels up with guests. Something tells me that they just don't have anything to say.
I was talking to somebody in Joe Manchin's camp last night, and that person would say that you are wrong, that this is serious. And in fact, Joe Manchin sort of sees this opposition, all this, what he would see as hand-wringing from Democrats, as actual more encouragement for him to continue doing what he's doing, because they say this is evidence that No Labels is actually tapping into something.
Here's one thing that I will say that's funny. If you look up here, it says, see why Dems are worried about this potential third-party candidate. Come on. Everybody at CNN, everybody at this table right now is a Democrat.
Real, that they are tapping into what the polls show, is that America does not want a Biden-Trump rematch. And so I think, he is the biggest political tease, but I also think that with more attention, the more serious he becomes. And, I couldn't help but notice, it was a small thing, but you notice he was styling his hair a little bit differently. He was using a little bit more product. He was parting the hair a little bit.
This is, so full disclosure, this is my favorite thing from last night and this morning, because I have been chuckling about this fact for the better part. And I saw it in your notes this morning. I was like, thank you. I'm not the only crazy person here.
And actually, I will say this. His haircut looks better than what that previous thing was showing. That looks actually nicer.
Because it's true, the hairstyle is different, and we as reporters are naturally reading all the tea leaves. What does it mean, Alex Thompson, that there's product in Joe Manchin's hair?
When I asked his person, I was just like, what? And they were like, yeah, it was a little bit different. And Manchin's hair has actually been weirdly a bit part of his political personality. He ran ads about how his wife cut his hair in his re-election bid. So I don't know what's going on.
Split screen. These are the important things that we're going to dig into. No, I loved it because it was.
You're right.
I think it's because his wife finally said, hey, it's time to give you a good haircut.
And it's
I
also
hadn't
like a
noticed
weird,
that, but it is different. Yeah, that's true. Now I'll be
nicer.
reading the tea leaves. I mean, maybe he's trying to, I don't know, is it parted to the left or to the right? I don't know. But Shelby, look, the argument, I mean, and they get asked this pretty much every time they talk about No Labels. Aren't you just going to take away, especially if you don't want Trump to be the president, take away from the Democrat? And there is polling to suggest that people who don't like both parties are more likely, if they're given a choice of the two, to vote for the Democrat. So how concerned are both parties right now? Do you sense more concern on the left or on the right?
I think there's definitely more concern on the left, but I will say that Trump's campaign is keeping an eye on everything. They say that they keep an eye on this, on what Biden is doing, on what Tim Scott is doing, on what every candidate is doing. But at this point, I do think, based on that polling, that Trump's team is viewing this potentially as an opportunity, because a lot of people believe that if Joe Manchin were to run, he would take more votes away from Joe Biden. Now, I will tell you, Joe Manchin does not think that. He believes that he can take votes away from Donald Trump. And he also believes that there is a very narrow way for him to win through some of these
Yes, I can see Liz Cheney voting for Joe Manchin. I can see that.
red states. And I think he his point of view is that that is something that people are not picking up on or don't see. And that's his angle. And he's definitely keeping the door
And
open.
not just the red states, but these Rust Belt states that he won in 2016, the margin was basically Jill Stein's vote. So there's, evidence for that.
No, and it's why it's what drives the concern. But it's also, Jeff Zeleny made a great point to me the other day that Democrats, at least inside kind of Biden's team, are more concerned about Cornel West as somebody who could actually siphon away. Shelby, I do want to ask, you've got new report, you've had tons of great reporting on the DeSantis
How long will it be when they start calling Cornel West, all kinds of derogatory names?
campaign and where they stand right now? Obviously, in the midst of a little bit of an overhaul.
I'm sure he's getting a lot of pressure from Democrats to drop out. I'm sure of it.
We have the interview with Jake Tapper tonight, which is certainly a shift in media strategy. But there was something that was in one of your stories from a big donor from DeSantis that I wanted to read off to you, because it was an interesting kind of contrary view, which is it's from Dan Eberhardt, who told you the campaign is smart to adapt. Scott Walker's campaign was too heavy and didn't make changes soon enough. DeSantis' campaign is ahead of the curve and is making the tough choices that will enable them to win in the early primary states and beyond. And I feel like that isn't necessarily considered as a possibility at this point, right? You start this spiral as a candidate in campaign and everybody writes you off, you're dead. That becomes kind of the narrative that sticks. But maybe they learn from Scott Walker's implosion. He was on with Dana yesterday, and the parallels, I think, certainly on the surface are there. Do you think that they have figured out a way to quickly shift and adapt and put themselves back into play here?
I think it's a little bit too soon to tell, but I will say that donors are very split. You have the Dan Eberhardts of the DeSantis campaign who are kind of diehard DeSantis donors who I think will stick with him for a very long time. And then you have a group who are very skeptical and growing more skeptical. And this shakeup placated some, but worried others more. And I do think that there's an opportunity for him to kind of take like the John McCain, the McCain type situation where, he fires his campaign manager or he shakes things up a little bit more aggressively and he ends up doing a lot better.
Comeback story, plausible?
Oh, definitely plausible. And, part of this shift in media strategy is part of this. I mean, I don't think you can overstate how much his approach to mainstream media has changed from just 2 months ago. And this Jake Tapper interview this afternoon is just the latest instance of it. And Republicans are all going to be tuning in. Some will be popping some popcorn too.
And it's really interesting because he is internally, his team has been very split over whether to do mainstream interviews like the Jake Tapper interview. So it's extremely notable that he's doing it this afternoon.
And also, praising Jake. We love Jake, but you wouldn't have heard that from Ron DeSantis just a couple of months ago as they were trying to criticize most of the media that's not named Fox News and folks on the right.
Yeah, everybody in politics is going to be watching Jake.
I haven't made any decision.
All right, so there you have it. Talking about Joe Manchin and Cornel West running and their fear that Trump is going to win because of it. But I might react to Jake Tapper interviewing Ron DeSantis. Right now, there was a time where I was more of a DeSantis supporter. Right now, though, I'm more on the Trump train again. However, the way I see it is there's pros and cons to both. That's what I've come to. That's just the point where I've come to. There's pros and cons to both, And maybe when I do the DeSantis and Jake Tapper interview, I'll go more in depth. But that's where I'm at. That's why I don't join on Twitter. I don't join the cultists because you have the DeSantis cultists, you have the Trump cultists, and they're battling against each other in this war. And I'm just looking at them with my eyes, doing one of these numbers. And I've gone onto both of their sides on Twitter, and I've just pointed out, hey, look, Trump, this is the issues with Trump, and look over here, DeSantis, these are the issues with DeSantis. So, I just come to that agreement with myself, and I just prefer Trump, mainly because I believe he deserves his second term for office. Not deserves, but I just believe that he should get it. He should get it. So again, I'm an independent, so I won't be voting in the primaries. The Republican Party right now is a little bit too left for me. I mean, only 70, about 70 House Republicans right now are, you know, ever vote the way I would want them to vote. So at this point, I'm just like, yeah, I'm done. I mean, I'll lean in the general for the Republican, but for instance, my state representative here in Venango County area, I'm not voting for him for several reasons. So he's not conservative enough for me. So that's where I'm standing right now. Anyway, like, share, subscribe, comment down below. I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, and sayonara.